YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with my updated power rankings heading into week 5 of the NFL season. We update these every single Tuesday morning, so hopefully you can join us. We have all kinds of NFL content every week. It's listed in the bottom left and always adding more. Can't wait for our week 5 picks, score predictions, and plenty more. Hopefully you can join us. Like, subscribe to notifications on, follow us on Twitter. A lot of extra content on there, always talking with you guys. Link pinned in the comments for that, any other social media, and our sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid IV, code GOAT. Rocking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers chain from the GLD Shop. We have a giveaway. You can win a pendant and a chain to go along with it. Links pinned in the comments for that, anything you're looking for. On to the power rankings, which, very important, these are based on how teams are playing. They're not predictions, so teams play well, they'll move up. They don't play well, they'll move down, maybe stay put. So that's kind of what matters most. If teams kind of get on a streak, that definitely helps. But here we are after 4 weeks, learning more and more about teams each week. So kind of teams starting to find their spot in these rankings, starting to fall into the right range of where they belong. But the Bears remain at number 32. They had a good opportunity to move up. They played number 31 from last week, the Broncos, and they had that game, but let it slip away. Kind of just all around, like everything about the Bears during that blown lead was just bad. So still very much a work in progress. They remain at number 32. The Panthers are at 31. The Bears actually have their draft pick. They're down a spot. They were number 30. Winnable game against the Vikings, but too sloppy. Still nothing much going from a Bryce Young-led offense. The offensive line still playing kind of poorly. Receivers not getting much separation. Defensively, they got some turnovers, but they let the worst running offense run on them too, so nothing really going well for the Panthers there, and they're still looking for their first win. They're at 31. Number 30 is going to be the Giants. Monday Night Football was a disaster. I mean, they look like the worst team in football on Monday night. Daniel Jones is awful. The receivers are awful. The offensive line's awful. The coaching's going downhill. The team is not disciplined well. Special teams is a disaster. Defense isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's not good either. So, it's bad. I mean, they feel like number 32 as well, but there's just 2 other teams that feel that way and that they haven't won yet. So that's really, helping the Giants. But yeah, they're very bad right now. Of course, they do need some guys back, but they're still playing very bad. So they're down 2 spots to number 30. Number 29 is the Raiders. They're going to stay put. They were missing Jimmy G, and they actually had a shot to win that game, but still was a little bit of a disaster. They're staying put at 29. The Broncos coming off a win. It didn't look pretty, but the comeback, I guess, looked somewhat pretty. Defense could, even though they won, still kind of looks like it could be the worst in football. But they are fresh off a win while these other teams are losing. So they are up 3 spots to number 28. Number 27, the Cardinals down 2 spots. They've been playing tougher than, we kind of expected them to be. I mean, they even moved the ball up, somewhat decent. Against the Niners. The defense definitely a big-time work in progress still. They're not an easy team to play every week, but, another loss, down 2 spots, number 27. 26, the Jets actually had a pretty good performance against the Chiefs. Yeah, they couldn't come away with the victory. I think they could have handled some things a little differently, maybe going for touchdowns instead of field goals, instead of settling for field goals, but I mean, they honestly stepped up in this game and played a pretty good team. At the end of the day, they did lose. If they would have won, they would have boosted up big time, on the rise in these rankings. But they're going to stay put at 26. The Patriots are down 3 spots to number 25. Another bad outing, only 1 win. And they barely escaped the Jets in that win. But, yeah, the offensive line's not good. The quarterback passing game's not good. The running game wasn't good in this game. Receivers aren't getting enough separation. Defense it's good, but it got beat up. It's just not going well for the Patriots so far. They are down 3 spots to number 25. The Vikings got their first win. They're up 3 spots, number 24. The pass rush was fun. It was good to see the blitz. Harrison Smith being involved in the blitz and Marcus Davenport being back. That was pretty big. DJ Wanham played well. It's good to see them get the running game going, but the turnover is still an issue. The Panthers are kind of just an all-around bad team, and it still was kind of close. Like, they still could have lost that game. So, but they were kind of due because they could have won some of the games they lost. But at the end of the day, they still make mistakes. They only have 1 win, but they are up 3 spots, number 24. Still waiting to be kind of impressed with them, though. 23, the Bengals are down a whopping 11 spots. I mean, I thought something was heading in the right direction in the second half of that Rams game, while other teams looked, for the most part, most teams did not look impressive at the end of last week around their range of the rankings. And they look like the old Bengals, at the end of that Rams game. So they moved up a bit, but, now you look at the resume as a whole, and it's looking a lot like what we saw this week, and that's what we're most recently going off of. Week 4 means a lot. It means more than the first 3 weeks. That's kind of what history tells us. And Joe Burrow's limited because of his injury, and what does that do? It limits the entire offense. It limits Zach Taylor's play calling, his playbook. It limits everything, and they can't even stop the run anymore. I mean, the Titans just obliterated them. Like, they made the Titans look like a dominant football team. So this has just been bad. I mean, the one thing they got going for them was the second half of that Rams game where they kind of look like the Bengals, but something's not right there. I think Joe Burrow not being 100% is what's mainly causing it, but there's some other parts of this team that just don't look as good as what we're used to, which is a little disappointing. So they're down 11 spots to number 23. 22, the Colts down 2 spots. They played very bad in the first half of this game. It was kind of like, this is maybe worse than what I thought the Colts were going to be. But then they played pretty well in the second half and almost came back and won that game in overtime. But, that's where it's tough, though. So they don't get punished too much, but they need to start better. They're still a little bit of a work in progress in terms of the passing game, in terms of the defense. The pass rush has actually been okay this year, but I guess the coverage, the secondary, we'll say. But they're only down 2 spots, number 22. Just got to start better. 21, the Falcons down 6. It's a 2-game losing streak. They rely on the run game. It's, some similar takeaways. Their defense is probably better than it's been in the past. It's not great, but it's better. Tough task, kind of always on the field. Ritter throwing interceptions, so it's a tougher task. So they are better than the past, but this team does kind of rely on the run game and keeping, not getting down early. Passing game is a disaster. They might need to change a quarterback. They're not going to do that, though. So they're down 6 spots, number 21, just extremely disappointing the last couple weeks. And I think, again, they can get back on track. Again, they're not going to keep losing, perhaps, but again, history show that chances are the last 2 weeks mean a little bit more than the first 2 weeks. So that's not the greatest look for the Atlanta Falcons. The Saints, fellow NFC South team, down 7 spots. They're on a little bit of a losing streak as well. And, it's all kind of coming together. You look at the resume as a whole, and it's just something's consistent. The offense cannot get things together. It really cannot get things together in an offensive-driven league here. So, now it's starting to add up, and they're moving down. And it shouldn't be that way because they have playmakers everywhere, really, and Derek Carr should be better than he is, but he is playing injured, but it is what it is. Defensively, I like their defense, but only so much they can do. A game that you kind of going in, you feel like it's a must-win. Home against the Buccaneers, winnable game. You're supposed to be the team to beat in the NFC South, and they can't do that. So, been very, very disappointing the last couple weeks, since the fourth quarter of that Packers game. Number 19, there's the Packers, down 3 spots. Started very poorly against the Lions. I guess they played a little bit better in the second half. Maybe did that stop them from moving down more? Yeah, probably not. This is probably the firm spot they were going to be. But, I think kind of predictable, a little stale. I think they rely on their pass rush a bit, and then maybe Aaron Jones going crazy, which he wasn't, 100% maybe. But he was taking some shots in this game too. But down 3 spots to number 19 for the Packers. Home Thursday night, you're supposed to be able to play with the Lions, this year. And even though they came back, it really wasn't even close. They kind of made it clear, like the Packers helped make it clear that the Lions on top of help themselves too, but showing that the Lions are the team in the NFC North by quite a bit. 18, the Commanders stay put. Another loss. I'm disappointed with this defense. The defense has got to be better in this, but the offense, they can make mistakes. We saw that 2 weeks ago. And the offensive line, I don't like the offensive line, but the offense overall is ahead of schedule, I think. And there's a lot of upside when it comes to Bieniemy's offense and some of the young players on the Commanders. But again, it's a game that, going into it, they're not supposed to win. But how it went, you're supposed to put that game away. You're supposed to win that game, and they did lose. The defense was bad. But they end up staying put. I thought there was teams deserving of being lower than them, so that kind of helped the Commanders stay put. Winnable game on Thursday night against the Bears. They got to go execute, though. 17, the Steelers are down 6 spots. Yeah, I kind of felt like, I mean, the Steelers were on a 2-game winning streak, and they were doing some impressive things, maybe mainly with the pass rush, but it did kind of feel like, are they as good as the record 2-1? In a game like this kind of showed like, no, they were not as good. So 2-2 is maybe more like it. Are they even as good as that? Offense is stale, not good, and people blame the play caller. Sure, you can do that, but you got to blame the quarterback as well, which kind of limits the play calling in the playbook. Pickett's been playing bad. I was never extremely high on him, but I was starting to think he can play much better than the way he's playing now, and now he's injured on top of it, so that's not great. And then defensively, overall they rely on the pass rush getting home and like a lot too, and they couldn't do that in this game. So disappointing. I mean, the Steelers could be tough to play at any given time. It wasn't this week, but they could be tough to play still at any given time. But they're down 6 spots, number 17. 16, the Titans go up 7 spots. The Titans are going to be weird in these power rankings, I have a feeling. I think they're going to be up, down, up, down, up. Like, it's kind of what kind of the vibes they're giving me right now. But I think mainly because they're a much different team home and away. But it's a Titans football. Vrabel, Titans football, that, Vrabel era, like, they're tough. They're going to put up a fight with pretty much every team. They're going to have their moment, like the Browns game last week. But they're going to be difficult for teams. So they're still a good team, but, they got to be a little more consistent in a way, I guess. But in this game, they just obliterate the Bengals. I mean, there was actually, are the Titans a dominant team in general? No. Okay, they're not. But there was times in this game where, like, you can feel, like, dominance. Like the Titans are, like, they're everywhere. Like, the defense is swarming. The run game looks like vintage Derrick Henry, but you add the Tyjae Spears element, that element of, like, the athleticism and, like, unique ability and different things he can do. It's like, how do we deal with this? It's like a different Titans run game, but still great in a way. So that was just a beyond impressive performance. And other teams are looking very bad, so they move down below them. So they're up to 16, up 7 spots. And there's the other AFC South team, the Texans, over the last 2 weeks, maybe as impressive as anybody in the league, up a whopping 9 spots, which is quite a bit in week 5. Back-to-back games looking super impressive. They can win with the pass. They can win with the run. The defense is getting better. They're getting pressure on the quarterback. Can make plays. They're starting to put it together. Here. Let's see if it can continue. It started a little slow the first 2 weeks. Pretty slow, but the last 2 weeks is getting going. That matters more. I take more out of the last 2 weeks than the first 2 weeks for any team, really. So up 9 spots to 15. Been very impressed with the Texans. Rams up 7 spots. I still don't know what happened with the Bengals game. I think they kind of made a mistake on their own. Well, they had an injury at the offensive line in the Bengals game 2 weeks ago, but they weren't running near the goal line like they normally do, what works. Kyrie Williams gets in the end zone. They were getting sacked and then getting field goals to touchdowns. So they made some mistakes there, but back on track in this game. They almost let it slip away, though. I didn't like how that ended for them because based on how the game was going, they should have won in an ass beating, and they were winning in an ass beating. But so I don't like that they kind of allowed it to get close, but they're very explosive still, and they're still going to be a dangerous team, and they can win with the pass or the run. They're just very, very well coached. So that was supposed to be a tight game. I guess it ended up being a tight game, but they were the better team in that game for sure. So they're up 7 spots to 14. Chargers up 4 spots. What I don't love about the Chargers is, that they made this game close when it didn't need to be, and they kind of rely on making crazy clutch plays, but they can make the clutch plays, and they're still explosive. They can still, they can make plays through the air, on the ground, clutch plays on defense, and they were missing a lot of guys as well. So it's 2 games in a row they win in clutch fashion, up 4 spots to number 13. So they're kind of getting back on track. They were kind of getting lower because they were 0-2. But number 12, the Buccaneers up 7 spots, an impressive win over a division rival Saints in New Orleans. Just a big win for them. And just looking at their season as a whole, I mean, they slipped up against the Eagles. I still think there were some things in that game where, even though, I think if you didn't watch every snap, you wouldn't know. But I think there were still some little things that were like kind of positives in a way, if that makes sense, in that Eagles game. But they slipped up that one game. But overall, out of the 4 games, they've been looking good. They dominated against the Saints. The defense has been taking the ball away from teams, been dominant at times. Offense getting the job done. Baker finding ways to kind of create. You love to see. I think Todd Bowles is improving as a coach too, which is kind of rare. So I like what I see from the Bucs. That was their best game, I thought. Like the game that meant the most, I think, out of it, which usually week 4 means more than the other weeks, but they went out there and did that. So they're up 7 spots. They've been better than expected. So they're at number 12. Number 11, the Jags kind of get back on track. They look like the Jaguars in that game. Trevor Lawrence played very well through the air, on the ground, made plays when he needed to. The run game could have been a little bit more efficient. They got Christian Kirk going. Defensively, they made plays. They were playmakers out there. So they all around won this game. And they let Bijan get a little loose sometimes, but here and there. But it just felt like Jaguars football, and that means a lot in week 4 there. So they're up 3 spots, kind of back into the range where they started. Number 10, the Browns. Yeah, it was tough. They didn't have Deshaun Watson, but at the end of the day, they didn't have him. They lost. They played poorly, so they will move down. I'm just not really in terms of, if Deshaun Watson's in there, I'm not super worried really, but that's, we'll see what happens with that. So they did lose. Overall, I still like the Browns, but they're down 3 spots to number 10 and then to number 9, the Detroit Lions up 1 spot. Yeah, the 7, 8, 9 was so tough. This is where it was like really tough. I actually could show these teams because they were like in the same boat for me. You see the Seahawks coming in at 8 after a dominant Monday night performance, the Lions dominant Thursday night performance, and the Ravens a dominant early afternoon on Sunday. So these teams were kind of in the same boat for me. Very, very close, like in terms of their resume and how they're playing and how they're looking recently. The Ravens do have somewhat of a recent loss to the Colts. So that kind of played a part. I do think overall the Ravens are the better team so far than the 3, so that's close. Head-to-head, some people complain about head-to-head, this team beat this team. How is this team ahead of them? Well, there's 32 teams. They all played 4 games, so it doesn't mean 0, but it means kind of little. It's kind of last. But since these teams were so close, I do think the Seahawks win in Detroit did kind of play a little bit of a factor here in this one. So the Lions, dominant against the Packers. I love that they can win in multiple ways. I love how fast they play. I love the improvement of the pass rush, but the run defense specifically. They're looking good. They look like the clear team in the NFC North. They're at number 9. Seahawks dominant performance against the Giants. What I love about this game, and part of it could be the Giants are bad, and the Giants offense is bad, and the Giants offensive line's bad, and their quarterback's bad. That plays a part, but why can't it also be the Seahawks defense? Young players, young good players are improving, and they went crazy with 11 sacks. I think it was a record for the team. Young player like Devon Witherspoon making plays. They're just getting better. They're getting better. Offense is still explosive. They can execute a little bit better, I suppose. They had a 4th and short. For nitpicking, but Seahawks, they lost their first game, and since then they're on a streak, and they're looking pretty good. And the only thing they were kind of missing was defense, and they went out and performed there. So they're at number 8. Ravens at 7. Again, I sat here when I think teams kind of put themselves in the spots they belong. These 3 teams were kind of belonging at number 7, and so I had to kind of dig deep and decide here because they were so close. Sometimes that happens, but overall, yeah, it was tough because the Ravens have that Colts loss. But overall, a very good performance against the Browns. I know Deshaun Watson was out, but the Ravens offense played very, very well against a really good defense over there. And I like they kind of got the pass rush going, which has kind of been only a thing when they got the blitz going, So I like the actual edge rushers kind of got some pressure, and they still overall feel like a very solid team too. So they're up a spot. All 3 of those teams end up moving up a spot. So I thought that was intriguing. They were all very close in terms of their resumes and how good of teams that they are right now. And I thought they were clearly above like who's below them, like 7, 8, 9, like clearly above like the rest, 10 through 32. So some good teams there that I'm excited to watch going forward. Cowboys stay put at 6. Yeah, it was tough not moving the Cowboys up. Considered it because there was a good dominant performance against the Patriots. It's just, it's tough to move up around this range where you're talking about like the top tier, like elite, if you will, teams. 5, the Dolphins are down 3 spots. So, yeah, I did think about moving the Dolphins down 4. Cowboys up 1. But looking at what the Dolphins done this year and what the Cowboys done, in different ways they are similar, if that makes sense. Like Dolphins with offense, Cowboys with defense. Cowboys slipped up against the Cardinals, Dolphins slipped up against the Bills. So the Dolphins couldn't move any more down that, but it is tough because that, back in my mind, it's like that kind of looked more like the Dolphins, where they're kind of like they're still good, like they're still explosive, but just not enough against the Bills team or like those top tier teams. And usually, not always, but usually week 4 tells us more about the first 3 weeks. So which Dolphins we're going to get? I mean, luckily they'll play the Giants, which is they're just better, but a very favorable matchup at the same time, coming up this week. But they're number 5, down 3 spots, a disappointing loss against the Bills, but still top 5. Chiefs at number 4. Yeah, the Chiefs were, they weren't super impressive. Pacheco was impressive. Mahomes' legs were impressive. Defense was impressive early. I guess offense was impressive early, but they could have lost to the Jets this one. But at the end of the day, they found a way to win. They do what they do, and they clutched up and won this game. So, don't really see moving down often when you win, but it was somewhat considered here. But they're going to stay put at number 4. 3, the Eagles going to stay put there. The defense just isn't as good as last year. The pass rush is as good. Just because the raw talent, winning one-on-ones, but defense, in the secondary, the coverages, how it's called, it's definitely not as good, and it kind of showed against the Commanders. At home, should be able to handle business here, but the offense, super clutch, just a very good offense and showing up in big moments so I love that. Like being able, like a teams that can go execute in big moments, that's huge. So they remain in the top 3. Another win for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Buffalo Bills are playing like maybe the best team in football right now. Definitely the best team in the AFC at this moment. I don't think that's even a question. They did lose week 1. That was tough. They could be number 1, or maybe they would still be number 2 if they didn't lose that. But since then, they are streaking and they are looking dominant in different ways. Pass game, run game, variety of weapons, defense making plays along the way. The adjustments, looking at the adjustments on defense in the second half, scoring 48 points against maybe the hottest team in football, one of the hottest teams in football. Just a massive win. They're looking good. They're looking like the team to beat in the AFC. So they feel like a top 2 team. Even though they have a loss, they feel like, they firmly feel like a top 2 team here. But it's impossible to move the Niners down. There's no reason to. They are playing like the best team very consistently, running the ball, throwing the ball, blocking, coaching, defense, everything. They're staying consistent right now, being the best team. But the Bills look like, you could say, they look damn good right now. So, and other teams do too. But and the Niners play the Cowboys Sunday Night Football this week. Cowboys at Niners. 1 versus 6. I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, everyone is. So we'll see. I'm just curious to see if some of these teams can kind of continue like what they're doing recently. Because there's some impressive teams, but there's a lot of just bad football too. There's a lot of bad football. Hopefully that kind of stops. But the bad teams will play like bad teams. The good teams will play like good teams. It's just the way it is. But those are my power rankings, and we do these every single Tuesday morning, and they are based on how teams are playing. So no predicting. These things don't stay the same. I really enjoy doing these, how we do these. So, but we got our picks for week 5 still to come. Score predictions, against spread picks, bets, videos like that. I want to update my playoff predictions this week at the end of this week. So that'll be a lot of fun based on what we've learned from teams. So a little bit early in the season, get a chance to do that. So join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on, follow us on Twitter. That is very important. A lot going on there. Any important link you're looking for, social media, giveaway, picks, league, sponsors, in the comments. You'll find it pinned in the comments. Gonna do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.